Cubs dropped the first game today against the Reds after a sweep. We'll talk about Colin Rea's struggles and is there an opener brewing for Ben Brown on Saturday? Let's discuss on the Cubs Daily Podcast. Reds jumped on Colin Rea in this game. Final line is 5 2/3, 10 hits, 6 earned, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, 3 big home runs allowed, accounted for 5 of these 6 runs. TJ Friedel's leadoff homer was just a bad spot. Kind of can't throw a middle curveball to any lefty. 1-1 there. He bridges him. Tyler Stevenson is a ball that's a little more of a slight miss. Rea was trying to go with a backdoor free strikeout on an 0-2 sinker. I don't mind the pitch selection. This is one of those things where backdoor pitches are always fun when they're running arm side, but the miss is generally back into the middle of the plate, and Stevenson took advantage of that. A little bit more bad luck on that one. Again, I don't mind the pitch selection. And then Gavin Lux, single on a split down off the plate. I don't think you could fault Colin Rea for that. And then a pretty bad splitter miss late in the game to Jake Fraley puts the Reds up 6-0 at that time. That was an 0-0 pitch. Just leaked it, and he pounded it to right field. Rea had a 2.72 ERA in his first 7 starts as a Cub. And then in his last 2 starts against Cincinnati, he's allowed now 12 earned runs to push his ERA up to 3.98. So he jumped it over a full run in these last 2 outings. And I think in analyzing Rea, you could kind of go in 2 directions. The first is an optimistic one. Is just the Reds happen to see him well. They have his number. They have a plan that seems to be working, and they've executed it 2 times in a row. Even though you kind of have to give Rea some credit for settling in and not giving it off to the bullpen after like 1 or 2 innings. That's probably that somewhat intangible, partially tangible element of the veteran presence, knowing, okay, I kind of have to hunker down and get through, as Rea did today, 5 2/3. There's a lot of other scenarios where you go with younger starters in these roles, and they don't have that veteran presence ability to push through. And then all of a sudden you have Chris Flexen covering 2 to 3 innings in a game where you kind of needed him to cover not 2 to 3 innings overall. The other angle to take with Colin Rea is just that he's not like a sub-3 ERA pitcher, probably not even like a sub-3.5 ERA guy long-term over the course of 140 innings. He's routinely been in the low 4s in terms of ERA for most of his career in the last 3 subsequent seasons. And I think the Cubs have just made enough sharp changes with him, particularly reworking that 4-seam fastball, embracing kind of the arm slot drop that he's had, that you could probably sneak out like a 4 ERA flat at the end of the season. And if you can do that at the price they got him at in 140 or so innings, I think that's fantastic. Is he a postseason starter for them? I don't think so, but is he an important piece of the team to get them to the point where they can add other arms and then use him differently? 100%, and I think that was the whole point of adding a guy like Rea into the rotation and into the piece of the pitching puzzle, as I like to say sometimes. You got 1,400 innings or so to cover throughout the entirety of a season. How are you going to do it? Rea's going to play a pretty big part of that, and he's done pretty well so far. Again, league ERA is somewhere around like 4.3, 4.4. So you get sub that over the course of 140 innings for the price tag they gave him at around $5 million, and you're doing fantastic. So here's Craig Counsell and then Colin Rea on his outing and recent struggles.
Well, their left-handed hitters did a nice job against them, and you get burned by some home run balls.
I think the biggest thing was just my misses were kind of middle. If you go back and look at the homers, they were all kind of middle of the plate. So, I mean, it's just a little more focus, I guess, on where my misses are going to be on, with the ball coming out of my hand. Just have better misses. Delivery feels good and physically feel good. So
we'll stay on the pitching side here to close out this podcast. And no, we're not talking about Andrew Abbott because I have no idea why he is good. And the underlying data says he's due for regression. It has said that since he stepped foot on a major league mound, and he continues to absolutely shove. Career sub 3.5 ERA pitcher that most peripherals think should be more of like a 4.5 ERA guy. He is a mystery to me. The Cubs don't play the Reds for another 2 months. They get them early in August. And I hope when that rolls around, they don't see him. Although, assuming he's still in the rotation, you probably got about a 60% chance or so that you're going to see him. So, anyways, that's a problem for another day. Before Friday's game, the Cubs announced they're starting pitching for the weekend, and they put to be determined on Saturday, which is normally Ben Brown's slot. And then we heard some speculation from Bruce Levine and others that we might get an opener situation. Brown threw 32 pitches in his first inning of last start against the Reds. That was last Sunday. They're basically trying to protect him from my point of view. He's a 2-pitch guy. He threw a few pretty good changeups, I would say. That pitch, he's going to more of like a spike grip on it, so it's starting to dive and drop more, which I like overall. Grades out really well in models. It's 90 miles per hour. It's a sick pitch. But he's not probably going to lead an AB with that pitch. So early count situations, what he's run into in 2 of his last 3 starts is really aggressive swing rates from opponents in those situations. So they're jumping on him early as he tries to pound and get ahead with the fastball. He doesn't have enough like a Colin Rea or Jamison Town or Matt Boyd to stay off that pitch. Nothing from an angular standpoint that makes it a little bit harder to pick up, etc. It's a little bit more of just like, I'm gonna zone it, hit it. And the league has said, yes, we can hit that recently. The way to look at this objectively is to see that his expected slugging, so looking at launch angle and exit velocity, a pretty good predictor of like, what will the slug be going forward. First time through the order against Ben Brown, slugging 476, a bit above the league average. Third time through is 548. So the idea here is that you're trying to prevent Elly De La Cruz, probably Spencer Steer, maybe TJ Friedl, from seeing Ben Brown 3 times in a given game, where all those guys have a pretty good shot to slug in that 500 window, blow the game open, etc. And at that point, from a process standpoint, from the Cubs standpoint, you're looking at basically any other reliever in the pen being a better option than Ben Brown facing guys for the 3rd time this season. So instead of using that reliever after Ben, you use it before Ben to maybe give him a little bit softer of a landing, change up his routine, etc. And now we know that name is Drew Pomeranz. He will start tomorrow's game. And I thought it was going to be Keller, I'll admit. He opened for Cade Horton in Horton's MLB debut. But the more I looked at this, the Reds are kind of a lefty-heavy team. And I like this fun wrinkle by the Cubs to kind of force Francona's hand, where he basically has to accept, a disadvantageous first inning or 2 with Pomeranz matching up against Elly De La Cruz, who's much worse from the right side than he is from the left side. It seems like the Reds have consistently let off TJ Friedl, who's a lefty, obviously better versus right-handed pitching than he is left-handed pitching. Gavin Lux in there is another lefty. You have a lot of lefties in this lineup, and if you want those guys to get more at-bats, you have to push them higher up in the order, which, again, increases their probability that Pomeranz is the guy facing them, which is not good for the Reds overall. So this is kind of a clever chess move by Counsell and the Cubs here to pull back an advantage for them in the game individually, and then also just shake things up with Brown. Brown is needed, and he hasn't been great recently. I still believe in him long term. I kind of like this angle to try to change something about how he's approaching matchups. The Cubs don't have a ton of pitching depth without Shota on the mound. So you need Brown for the next week or so. And then eventually we'll get Shota back, and I'm fascinated to see what they do have, as I've mentioned on other podcasts, between Cade Horton, who's probably on some kind of workload limit this season, and Ben Brown. So we'll see how things go tomorrow. It's a 1:20 start again against the Reds. Noon pregame. We'll see you then. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and hopefully Saturday morning. Take care.